Picture this. Carla, the customer, just called in. She's on her third espresso, feeling wildly optimistic, and she wants to literally corner the options market by buying 1 billion call contracts on her favorite tech stock. She's got a hunch. Well, before we deal with the sheer absurdity of Carla's master plan, I should mention this explainer is brought to you by CertFuel. If you're prepping to handle real-world chaos and pass your Series 7, they've got a full course with adaptive study quizzes, smart flashcards, and unlimited practice exams weighted exactly like the real thing. Check them out at certfuel.com. Okay, back to Carla.
So Carla wants 1 billion contracts. Enter Sam the supervisor. Sam is the guy who has to calmly take the phone, hit the mute button, and shut Carla's massive trade down before it even sniffs the exchange. But why? Well, because exchanges strictly cap the number of contracts any single investor, or a group acting together, can hold. They do this for one main reason: to prevent market manipulation. If Carla actually bought 1 billion contracts and exercised them all at once, she would completely break the underlying stocks market. And that brings us to the very first safeguard we need to talk about today.
Position limits. Now, the formal definition matters, but I want you to laser focus on one highly testable phrase: same side of the market. Position limits cap the maximum number of contracts an investor can hold on the same side of the market for a single underlying security. That's the absolute core of the rule. You see, exchanges don't just look at a giant pile of random contracts you own. They look at what those contracts are actually trying to achieve.
Okay, let's dive into this, because comparing these categories side by side is where the magic happens. What exactly does same side of the market actually mean? It means we're grouping positions that have the exact same directional outlook. Let's start with the bullish side. If you buy a call, a long call, you want the stock to go up, right? Well, if you sell a put, a short put, you also want the stock to go up or at least stay flat. Therefore, long calls and short puts are on the same side. They are both bullish. Now flip it and look at the bearish side. Buy a put, you want the stock to drop. Sell a call, you also want the stock to drop or stay flat. So long puts and short calls, those are grouped together too.
Let's test this right now. Carla has 15,000 long calls and 15,000 short puts on the exact same underlying stock. Is she at 30,000 contracts on the same side of the market? Pause the explainer. Seriously, I want you to physically hit pause, think about those bullish and bearish groups we just walked through, and answer the question out loud. And we're back. The answer is absolutely yes. She is sitting on 30,000 bullish contracts. And listen, this brings us to a massive exam trap. You absolutely must aggregate long calls with short puts because they are both bullish. The test writers? Oh, they love to bait you by listing all 4 position types and hoping you'll just add them all up into one giant meaningless number. Never, ever add all 4 types together. You only combine bullish with bullish and bearish with bearish. That's it.
So, you're probably wondering, how high can these limits actually go? Well, it scales. The exchanges use a tiered system based on the underlying stock's 6-month trading volume and its shares outstanding. There are 5 standard tiers to know. It starts at a base of 25,000 contracts, moves up to 50,000, then 75,000, 200,000, and finally maxes out at 250,000 contracts. But to hit that top tier of 250,000, the underlying stock needs to be massively liquid. We're talking at least 100 million shares traded over a 6-month period. Which brings me to this giant number, 25,000. I want you just to stare at it, memorize it, because this right here is another huge exam trap. The number 25,000 is the base position limit. It is the absolute default for the least actively traded optionable securities out there. Do not fall for a trick question that tries to tell you 25,000 is the maximum limit. No way, it's the absolute floor. A stock only qualifies for the higher tiers if it proves it has the heavy trading volume to back it up. Now, keep in mind those tiers we just talked about, those are for standard equity options. But what about index or interest rate options? This is a brilliant example of how the rules kind of bend based on the product. For broad-based index options, think something massive like the S&P 500, they might actually have no position limits whatsoever. Or, if they do, they're insanely high because that market is just too massive to manipulate easily. But narrow-based, industry-specific indexes? Oh, they absolutely still have limits set by the exchange, usually 18,000, 24,000, or 31,500 contracts, depending on how concentrated the index is. And stepping away from indexes altogether, interest rate options are capped totally separately. 5,000 contracts for a short-term treasury measure and 25,000 contracts for a long-term treasury measure.
All right, so let's say Carla, the customer, successfully navigates those position limits. She builds a massive, completely legal position, but suddenly she wants to cash it all in today.
Enter our third character, Riley the rep. Riley frantically calls Carla and says, "Wait, you can't exercise all of these right now. You are bound by a 5-day clock." That number 5 is absolutely crucial. It represents a rolling 5 consecutive business day window.
And that introduces our second major safeguard, exercise limits. Because while position limits dictate how many contracts you can hold, exercise limits cap the maximum number of contracts you can actually exercise within 5 consecutive business days. The purpose here? It's exactly the same as before. The exchanges are trying to prevent a single investor from demanding so many shares all at once that it completely crashes or spikes the market for the underlying security.
So the crucial point for you is figuring out exactly what your exercise limit is. And thankfully, the rule is incredibly straightforward. Generally speaking, your exercise limits are exactly equal to your position limits for the same underlying security. It's literally the exact same cap, you're just measuring it with a different ruler. Instead of measuring what you hold at a single snapshot in time, you're measuring what you execute over a rolling 5-day clock. Simple as that. Rapid-fire exam recap. What to check on exam day. Let's shift into high gear and sprint through the non-negotiable facts you need locked in your brain.
Takeaway number 1. Always aggregate by the side of the market. Long calls and short puts are bullish. Long puts and short calls are bearish. Do not let the exam bait you into adding all 4 position types together into one fake inflated number. Takeaway 2. The base position limit is 25,000 contracts. That is the floor, the default for the least active stocks. You only ever reach that massive 250,000 contract top tier if the stock has incredibly heavy trading volume.
Takeaway 3, exercise limits and position limits are basically twins. Exercise limits generally equal position limits, but the trap is the timeline. Exercise limits run on a strict, rolling 5 consecutive business day clock.
Takeaway 4. Not all index options are treated equally. Broad-based index options might have absolutely no position limit at all, but narrow-based, industry-specific indexes definitely still do. Keep those 2 categories completely separate in your mind.
So here is my final question for you. If Carla the customer shows up in one of your exam scenarios holding a massive combination of long calls and short puts, and she tries to exercise them all at once on a random Tuesday, will you spot the aggregation trap, remember the base limits, and check the 5-day clock before Sam the supervisor has to step in? I'm confident you will. Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep drilling those practice exams, and I'll catch you in the next one.